Good morning. It's nice to be with you this morning. I wanted to take some time this morning to talk about fear and anxiety. Um, the virus is very real. It's dangerous, and not only is it um, causing health issues and death in some cases, um, it's affecting every part of our lives, our businesses. Um, if we have kids, it's affecting them. They're going to school differently, and we haven't really experienced this. This generation really has not experienced this before. So, fear and anxiety, I think, are normal human responses to something like this, and we shouldn't worry if we're feeling this way. But I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss both fear and anxiety to hopefully gain some understanding about those words, and so that we can ultimately have some control over them. Again, we use these words interchangeably, and why is that? The answer is they both cause similar physiological responses of increased heart rate, increased respiratory rate, increased sweat gland activity, elevated blood pressure, and decreased digestive activity. Those are, again, common to both fear and anxiety, which is maybe why we use those words interchangeably. But they are in reality quite different. And what's the difference? Well, the American Psychological Association defines fear as our fight or flight short-acting response to a specific imminent threat for the purpose of removing us from a presently dangerous situation. Fear is also a basic, intense emotion aroused by the detection of imminent threat involving an immediate alarm reaction that mobilizes us by triggering a set of physiological changes. Anxiety, on the other hand, is the emotion caused by our thoughts or feelings to a perceived, generalized potential threat. Anxiety is an emotion characterized by long-acting apprehension in which an individual anticipates future danger, catastrophe, or misfortune. So again, fear is our response to an immediate, present, real threat, and anxiety is a response to our feelings about a perceived potential threat in the future. So you see the difference there. Think of it as if you're on safari and you're getting chased by a lion, fear kicks in because the lion is chasing us, and it's an immediate problem. Anxiety, on the other hand, is a response to maybe being on safari. There's no lion, but our thoughts lead us to say, well, what if there's a lion, and what if that lion has bad intentions, and what if that lion is hungry, and what if that lion can catch me and eat me? So anxiety is more about the what if situation. And so the question is, as we navigate these times, do we need to be anxious about this virus? And I challenge you to fight anxiety whenever it creeps in. Again, we all have it. We all get it from time to time. But the trick is to not let it take over our lives. And how do we do this? The first thing is pray. Pray to God about it. Talk to Him about it. And remember that He's in control. And He loves us. And I think back to Mother Gavrila saying that she never has any stress or strain, because if something happens, God either willed it or allowed it. So what business is it of hers to have anxiety over that. Next, allow yourself to sit with your fear for 2 to 3 minutes, a short period of time. You can contemplate it for a short period of time and then try to let it go. You can let it go by calling a friend. This is social, we call it social distancing, but that's really a misnomer. Being social doesn't spread the virus. Being in close physical contact spreads the virus potentially. And so by calling a friend, we can talk about these things, and I'm sure our friends are feeling the same way we are. And so call and talk to a friend about it. Next, write down the things that you're grateful for. Gratitude is a great defense against anything like this in our lives that take us into feeling this anxiety. Exercise not only helps our bodies, but helps our soul, and it helps our immune systems fight this off if we get it. Realize that you're courageous, realize that you're powerful, and be kind to yourself. It's okay to have these emotions, but be kind and remember, again, how powerful you are to have control over these emotions. More practically, I'm trying to limit my media intake. If you read a media story leading us to fear, find one that's more positive, or find hard data to look at to fact check that article. Most of the time, you find words leading us to fear because I think fear probably is clickbait. We read a story like that, and for some reason we want to click on it and see what else we should be afraid of. Well, there's just as much out there to be positive, to feel positive about. So let's find those articles as well. I want to give you some homework. So Jesus spoke about worry quite often, and Paul did as well. There's also some nice things in the Old Testament that I found that hopefully you can go and find in times where you're feeling anxious or fearful, and it would help. So the first one is John chapter 14 verse 1, Jeremiah 7 and 8, Joshua chapter 1 verse 9, Romans chapter 8 verse 38 and 39, Philippians chapter 4 verse 6 and 7, Luke chapter 12 verse 24 to 27. So again, hopefully those will help. And if you missed any of those, hopefully you can rewind the video and hear those again. I want to leave you with a couple of things here. Fighting off anxiety does not mean that we can be reckless. We have to be careful and take this virus seriously by following the guidelines of the CDC and our governments, and let's just be careful and look out for each other at the same time that we fight this anxiety about what could happen in the future. I think they're not mutually exclusive, and we can do both. And last, I want to read a poem that's commonly attributed to Kathleen O'Mara in 1869. This is in response to the 1919 pandemic, and it reminds us that this state of affairs, even though it may be new to this generation, it's not new to the planet, and this too shall pass. And people stayed at home and read books and listened, and they rested and did exercises and made art and played and learned new ways of being and stopped and listened more deeply. Someone meditated, someone prayed, someone met their shadow, and people began to think differently, and people healed. And in the absence of people who lived in ignorant ways, dangerous, meaningless, and heartless, the earth also began to heal. And when the danger had ended, and people found themselves, they grieved for the dead, and made new choices, and dreamed of new visions, and created new ways of living, and completely healed the earth, just as they were healed. Thank you, and God bless everybody.